Welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marci Brockman, and I am so glad you're here. In this podcast, we engage in meaningful, deeply human conversations using our voices to inspire connection, compassion, understanding, empathy, and wholehearted wellness. I want you to find the courage to transform yourself no matter what others tell you. Only you can give yourself permission to trust yourself, permission to take care of yourself, permission to follow your heart and desires, and build a life of love, home, and belonging. Through sharing our stories, we will help each other to heal and create the healthy, meaningful lives we richly deserve. We only need our own permission to begin. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Permission to Heal. I am Marci Brockman, and I am thrilled that you are here. Today, in episode 40, I had the honor of talking with Regina Powers. Regina Powers is an amazing health practitioner. She started out as a registered nurse, became a nurse practitioner, worked in emergency medicine, worked as a family practice, integrative health practitioner, and also combines energy medicine in with the Western medicine. So she combines the best of traditional Chinese medicine with modern Western medicine to bring about a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual transition and healing with all of her patients. She is an amazing woman, and I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as the two of us did. She is a phenomenal human being, a phenomenal health practitioner, and a phenomenal, and you don't want to miss a single second of this episode. Permission to Heal, episode 40. So glad that you're here. I do all of the editing myself, so I can edit all of this out later. But I do. I forget what I was going to say. Too many thoughts in my brain at once, and poof. I don't know.
It'll come back if it was meant to.
Yeah. Okay, so I do the intros afterward as a little time warp, So we're just going to jump in. We'll do the 6 quick questions, and then we'll talk about your book. And I have like a page of questions, which I may or may not ask as I wrote them. Who the hell knows? We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
And
Um,
one thing I will share with you is my retreat I'm having in September is now November,
oh, it got
because
moved.
we're remasking, we're having an upflux. And so
Yeah, in California. Yeah.
I reached out to the place where I'm having it. And I said, do you have any November dates? And he said, yeah. So it's now the 12th through the 14th. Yeah. And I'm excited that I don't have to really, like kind of, because people are hesitant. They're hesitant about a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I don't want that. If you're going to do this, you come in wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Right. Right. You have to
Yeah.
bring your whole everything with you for a thing like that, or you're not going to get what you want out of it.
Right. And the
And
fear factor.
international travel, even in the middle of a global pandemic, even though we think it's receding, it's not quite receding. There are a
No, I
lot of
mean,
places that don't have access to the immunizations the way we do. And I mean, even a lot of pockets in the United States aren't immunizing. So it's
yeah.
still treacherous out there.
And I just think that they're, the forecast of this, like the Delta, is actually okay. It's more flu-like. It's very contagious, but it's not as, say, deadly as the first go around. So I just think this, I would like to be on the other side of it, because they
Sure.
said in Britain, it's down. They saw that it's usually a 4 to 6 week thing. So I'm right in that wheelhouse with the retreat.
Nice.
So
Oh, good.
yeah, yeah. So I said, okay, yeah.
Yeah, scary. Like we just did an international trip as a family. My dad, my stepmom, my two stepsisters, and their families, and there were like 12 of us who went down to Ocho Rios, Jamaica.
Oh,
And Jamaica in July, it was a little hot,
oh,
but
right. Yeah,
I'm the only menopausal woman in the family, so I was the only one sweating everywhere. But whatever. Um, but it was nice to have all of us together. It doesn't happen often,
right, right.
and we all live in the New York area. Our parents are like snowbirds and then do Connecticut also. And so it's all kind of close, but it was nice to have all of us in the same space for 8 days.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I was just back east. My mom's
Yeah.
in Cape Cod.
Oh,
And
lovely.
so, yeah, so great grandkids, we finally saw them. Like she hasn't seen them through any of this.
Yeah.
So I just said, "Hey, Richard, are we up for it?" And my brother, they're his grandkids. My mom's a great great grandmother, so she hasn't seen them. And so,
Right.
Benjamin's 2.5, and Shannon's 5, and it just is, and that brings so much love and so much joy to
Sure.
her just by. And I was like, it was such a great visit, even though, it's still this, mask of whatever's there, but
Sure.
none of us masked, yeah,
Yeah.
not even my mom, which was great, because you can't really, the kids don't even know her smile. They don't know
Right.
her, she's from Ireland, so her brogue, and they look
Yeah.
at her funny because the way she talks. And it's just, it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, so I get it. I get the whole,
Yeah.
even though the heat, even though whatever, it's just
Right. It
being
was
together.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad, my stepmom, and my daughter, my husband, and I were next week, the week of the 14th, when I guess that's next weekend. We're set to
Yeah.
drive up to Burlington, Vermont,
Oh, nice.
because my son is he's a graduate student in mechanical engineering at University of Vermont, but when he graduated from UVM last May, it was in the middle of the pandemic. They canceled the graduation ceremony.
Oh, so he's now getting,
So
oh,
they decided at the end of June, let's have a commencement ceremony in mid August. I don't know what brainchild figured that out, but now we all have a month and a half or 2 months tops to get accommodations and travel. And
mm,
they were probably hoping that not a lot of people would come back.
mm,
I mean, if you graduated in May, would you linger around your college for months at a time?
right, Right.
most kids who graduated probably moved on and they're in
Right.
other states, they're in other jobs, they're not coming
Right.
back to Vermont. But my son and his whole group of mechanical engineering friends stayed for their accelerated master's program. And so they're still in Burlington. So he's like, if he lived somewhere else, he wouldn't come back. He doesn't care about
No,
that. But he's
no.
there. Why not go? So now we were all going to drive up and I got hotel rooms and the whole thing. But now, because of the Delta variant, my dad and my
There.
stepmom don't want to come because we don't have enough tickets for them to see the actual commencement ceremonies them in person.
Right.
But they don't want to be around crowds
You
because they got
can't
the
blame them though.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
Not the slightest
Yeah.
bit upset. They got the Pfizer vaccine, and I think my stepmother read somewhere that in Europe, the Pfizer vaccine they're recommending or potentially recommending a booster.
Right.
She's afraid that she and my dad both, when they even with the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, had no side effects. And so she's wondering, like, because they didn't feel bad afterwards, did it not take? I'm like, I don't think that has anything to do with it. But I'm an English teacher, not a medical professional, so I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know a lot about like because my one of my friends is a engineer. It was a chemical engineer prior to becoming a physician.
Right.
And so right at the beginning, she was very much like Regina. I don't know if you understand about ribosomes, but there's different um, snapshots in them, and the way they did the vaccines, they're not a large snapshot. So
Right.
when your mother-in-law says that, or your dad's wife says that, it's truly like we don't know. So
Right.
she could be very it could be
Right.
true.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, a little caution who never hurt anyone.
No, right now I think it's just being mindful is the key to your getting
Yeah.
to the other side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's like 78, my dad's 81. Let's
Oh,
not
yeah.
let's
No,
not
no, no.
monkey,
No,
you
no,
know?
no. Yeah.
Stay
My
where you're
mom's
comfortable.
87 and
Yeah.
I just still am, grateful she's healthy. She wears her mask everywhere. She's still, I give her the little, rub this, do this, and she's doing it all. So
Bless her. That's great.
I know.
That's great. Yeah, I'm a public high school English teacher, and I last
Oh,
year
okay.
was a, sorry to say it this way, shit show. Between kids in class, all masked, so I had no idea what any of them looked like. I was masked. I had kids who were online who were going to school full time remote. So I was teaching them in a Google Meet on my computer at the same time that I had half the class in person. So doing two things at once all year long, I don't recognize the last day of school.
Right.
My seniors were taking their masks off so we could take selfies together, and I didn't recognize any of them. Like, that's
Mhm.
what you look like? Like, I'd never seen their faces. And they
Yeah.
weren't talking because they were all shell shocked from the whole pandemic and anxious. And the masks were sort of like somebody was holding their hands over their mouths so that they were speaking even less than kids would speak in class. So
Right.
I am just
Yeah.
hopeful. I don't know if it's going to go, but I am just hopeful that we're not masked in school.
Yeah.
But I
They're
have,
debating it here. That I have friends with kids in the high school, and yeah, it's so sad because everything you just said, they're all experiencing that anxiety. Like I've
yeah,
seen more kids in clinic. Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
use essences and different things, but just what you said, like some of the people that I've seen, they've never seen my smile. They've never seen my full
sure.
face. And that just takes, it's interesting because I show breath work, I do other things, but I'm always backing up and taking my mask down now just because I still wear it. And I
Yeah,
just for them to see me, but also like the comfort of being doing experiential things with people. I'm like, no, this has to be like it has to be. I'm
right,
making my own, guidelines, just and say it being safe, but there is something about that and being received.
right. I mean, there were times where, I mean, as long as I was stuck sitting at my desk anyway, and I'm not normally that kind of teacher, I'm like always up and around, but
Right.
I have to be seen by the kids who are home at the
Oh,
same
right.
time that I'm seen by the kids at school. And
Yeah.
so I'm 6 feet at least away from them because we're trying to socially distance
Right.
everything,
Right.
and doors
Right.
and windows are open. So there were times where I would just take my mask off and I'm like, look, I'm 6 feet from everybody. I'm vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fine. I don't see
Yeah.
anyone but you guys and my family. So I don't go
Right.
anywhere else.
Yeah.
But you need to see my face when I'm talking about certain things,
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it was a terrible year.
Well, I think it is gonna, I do. I think the 4 to 6 weeks thing, I don't know why I feel that we're gonna see a different hump going downward.
Oh,
That's what
hopefully.
I'm praying for. Yeah.
Good.
Mm.
Okay. So let's just start this. I know that you probably, I want to be
Yeah.
mindful
I
of
have
your
till,
time.
yeah, and I have till noon, so I'm okay on this end.
Okay. Okay. So I do the intro after. So it's just welcome, Regina. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Marci.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. I was so excited. I read your book. I think your publicist sent it to me, and I got your card and a whole thing, and I was so excited. The minute I got my hands on it and I started reading it, I booked you. I was like, have to have Regina. Have to.
Mhm.
Have to.
Thank you.
I had so many. I highlighted the book. I took notes. I had so many aha moments. I wrote whole
Mhm.
things on blank pages. There's so
Yeah.
much of this that makes so much sense to me. And I
Mm.
was like sharing this with my daughter's 20 and is
Oh,
going through
beautiful.
her own mental health journey, and I kept like taking pictures of pages because she would be at work or she'd be somewhere else. I mean, she lives home now because it's summer, but and I'm like, you have to read this. This totally makes sense for you. Isn't this how you? And so we've had a lot of these very excited, much more excited on my end and much more tolerant on her end, but you know, but it's been wonderful. So let's just we'll do the 6 quick questions really quickly, and then we'll dive into talking about what colors your medicine, cause and soul journeys and the whole thing. Cause yeah, we need to. Okay, so 6 quick. What 6 words would you use to describe yourself?
Um, Compassionate,
Yes,
soulful,
yes,
very present,
yes.
mindful, unconscious.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah. And how many do I have now?
I know.
Yeah.
5, 6. I've lost count. I don't know.
Yeah. I would say I'm strong in a way that is not from the muscle of me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spiritual strength,
Yeah. Very much so.
faith-based strength. I think universal strength.
I would say universal strength. I
Yeah,
would say, and I'm very connected.
yeah, yeah. I myself have always been, before I knew what it was, have always been very attuned to and sensitive to energy changes and shifts, and very self-analytical, and
Mm.
um, very aware of my relationships, conversations, whatever, my interactions with everything else,
Mhm.
inanimate, animate, people, whatever, animals, whatever, in a way that I thought everyone was. And then
Mm.
I've realized not everyone is this awake, you know.
Yeah.
And at times it's caused me a lot of anxiety and,
Mm.
feeling like a square peg in a round hole and stuff, but that's another thing. All right, let's get to second question. What is your favorite way to spend a day?
I have, you know, when I read your questions that you gave me, it's so funny because it really is in the day, in the
Sure.
moment
Oh, of
for
course.
me. Yeah. And anything that's outside, I'm good with. And
Mm-hmm.
there's something about me that gravitates always to be in nature. If I'm off, I'm not feeling connected, or there's some part of me that knows I'm separated from some portion of me,
Mm-hmm.
I end up in the woods. So I have very specific places I'll go.
Right.
And there's one in Marin. I used to live in a canyon, and it was right after my dad passed, and I was on that foot trail every day, and it was me in the trees and me in the water and me in the, if it rained, I had enough of a, an awning over the trees and the trail that
Mm-hmm.
I could still go out. So anything that's really out there, nature, yoga, we do park yoga. So we're in the Presidio doing yoga
Nice.
all through the pandemic. So very grateful
Lovely.
for that group. We still go, we still
That's
do it.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very disconnected from nature. Um, Lately with the whole hot flashes and menopausal thing, like the weather's got to be perfect or I can't be outside for too long because I'm just drenched, which is not
Ah,
so great. But I remember
no.
when I was in college, I went to college in upstate New York, and every single day I would go walking or hiking through the Shwangunk Mountains, which were like 10 minutes from where I went to school. And it was lovely. I was not a mountain climber or a
No.
repeller or
No.
anything, and there were plenty of people doing those things. But I just take a little walk and, you know, listen to the trees and then go back, and it was fine. But I
And
don't
just
do
that,
much.
just what you said, that's really all that's necessary.
Yeah.
It's not about the aggressive, I've done all those aggressive, and,
Yeah.
I realize more and more it's not that for me. It's just I need to be connected to that. It's enough
Mm-hmm.
of that energetic, playful piece that even menopausal. I've done.
Yeah.
I'm in your category. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's enough to just receive that, as if you think about the negative ions and what they do
Yeah.
for us, it's enough that it will
Yeah.
help reset you, even if
Yeah.
it's just a little bit.
Yeah, I just sit in my backyard, have a cup of
Yeah,
coffee
there
or a
you go.
cup of
That's
tea, and then go
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's kind of enough. Number three, what is your favorite childhood memory?
It's interesting. My mom lives on the Cape still, and
Mm-hmm.
we went to the Lower Cape. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
Cape Cod, but yeah. So as a kid, we summered in Eastham, and so
Mm-hmm.
I have I would sing to the Bob Whites. They had
Yeah.
their certain ring, and I would sing back. And so I was forever involved in the natural world as just a
Nice.
very young kid. And the Cape has all beautiful memories of, being at Cornhill Beach, and
Nice.
in the sand dunes in Provincetown, and the penny candy store. Like all that
Yeah.
is just, it brings back things instantly. The
It's
Mary
amazing.
Janes, it's so funny. Like I would never, and I don't have any of that in my surroundings right here. But
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Yeah, early this morning, I shouldn't say early this morning, early for me, my summer schedule is I sleep just unconventional hours at this point in the summer, but I woke up this morning and my husband was rubbing my back and I was rubbing one of the cats. We have four cats. I was petting one of the
Ah,
cats, and it reminded me of fourth grade out of nowhere. I hadn't thought about this probably since fourth grade. We used to go outside for recess and all the other kids would be running around doing whatever they were doing, and my little girlfriend group, we would all sit in a circle and rub each other's backs for the half hour that we were outside. So we would get nature and we would get touch, and we'd all like help each other relax, and we'd rub each other's backs in a little circle, or we'd play with each other's hair or something. I don't even know who those girls are anymore. I have no recollection of who they were, and it was before I started journaling, so it's just gone. But the feeling of that
yeah, that,
synchronicity of that circle
yeah.
was just, I hadn't thought about that in 40 years.
In the circle. Like there's
Yeah,
so much in the sacredness of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Mm,
cool. I
that's
like that.
beautiful.
Thanks. Number four, what's your favorite meal?
That again is
Yeah.
in the
Oh yeah.
moment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm always asking myself, what don't I like?
Right.
I have
That's a
friends that
probably easier to figure out. Right.
yeah, my friends ask me because they have me over for dinner a lot, and they're like, "We're gonna cook this tonight." And I'm like, "Oh, that's perfect." And, it's I don't know what I wouldn't, but I love Thai. I love seafood too. That's
Hmm.
really and Indian. Those are like the three.
I love Indian food, but it does not love me.
Oh, okay. And sushi. Look at sushi.
Oh,
They just had
sushi.
sushi. Yeah. So
Sushi I
I'm
love. Sushi I
yeah.
love. My grandmother's matzo ball soup.
Ah.
which I've learned to replicate. So that's good. Um,
Oh, it's so funny you just said replicate. So my mom is from Ireland and she makes an Irish bread. And it's not the Irish soda bread, not
mhm.
the white thing. I always say, because that's not my mom's bread. It's dark, it's
Sure.
full of raisins, and so
Sounds
I just
heavy.
replicated it with her. And
Nice.
I've done this, I've watched her do it. But I've been the person that brings back the bread,
Yeah.
and cut it up and deliver it to people. And so they all want my mom's bread. And so she had been sick for the last 6 months. And so I said, Mom, we got to do it, but this time I'm going to take notes. And through the whole experience, she's like, it's a feel. There's 3 cups of sugar, or, this 3/4 cup of sugar, but, let's give it another big heaping teaspoon. So that was the whole time I'm doing it. So I have no real idea of how to
Yeah.
replicate it, but I'm going to try. But I brought the bread back. So it's half her and half me.
Well, you just meditate on it beforehand and connect
That's exactly,
yourself with your ancestors. It'll come back.
yeah.
I've been trying to do that with my mom's brisket,
Oh,
but she died with the recipe. So I don't really know exactly how. And I have been now like just researching this and making every single recipe that I find. And at this point, I'm not 100% sure if I'm remembering it correctly.
uh,
It's been a while.
right.
And so even if I touched on it, I'm not sure it would
Mm.
resonate the same way. But I found a lot of brisket recipes that I love, so we're all good. But, yeah.
Yeah, the nice thing is that I have given it to quite a few people, so they would be able to give me right up front. It's you're not even close, Regina, or that's okay. So
Right, right. That's good. And you still
yeah,
have your mom there
that's yeah.
to make it.
Thank
And
you.
if she
Yeah,
had to, she could ship it to you.
I'm grateful for her still being here. I
It's
tell
a
you,
blessing.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it is. Yeah,
Absolutely. And in this past year, we've
yeah,
lost a lot of people that we didn't think we were going to lose. So
yeah. She lost
it's a good
uh,
thing.
her best friend and 3 other people. Yeah, it's been
It's hard.
yeah. I think grief has been something that we're not uh, dealing with on a larger scale. And I think that
There's going to be
climate of,
repercussions of that in the next few years for sure.
well, I think it's already started. I think that the rate of anger and violence and
Hmm.
is really from unfelt grief.
Yeah.
We haven't really tapped into that depth of that. I truly believe that there's a lot of really deep wounds of sadness that we're walking with. And so instead of feeling it, right, we act out.
Most people
And
run away from their feelings, or a good portion of them, because they're afraid of them and they don't know where they're going to lead them.
and so the anger is an
Yeah,
easier
it festers.
expression.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And that's what I do believe, because here in San Francisco, there's lots of violence and lots of just I can't even describe it. Like people are just breaking windows, not to take anything, just to break them in
Right.
cars
Anger.
randomly. Yeah. It's anger, frustration.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that everywhere.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. We off topic. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'll shake that off a bit, and then we'll continue. What one piece of advice would you like to give your younger self?
Yeah. It's so funny. Someone actually tattooed it on their arm. My saying a lot of times is, why don't we try easier, or why don't you try easier? And the reason I say it is because most of the time I'm saying something to somebody, I have to take it in for myself. And so really that would have been my best advice, is for me to try easier.
Don't make it so hard.
Yeah. Or have to do it right or be perfect, or, go back and replay it how many times, when if I just did just from a place of just being,
Right.
I would have tried easier and never had to bring it up again. Yeah.
It makes so much sense in so many ways. Like I know personally, I've perseverated over the same emotion, the same feeling, the same thing, and not addressed it head on out of fear or vulnerability or, fear of abandonment or,
Right.
myriad of my own pathological things. And had I just, bitten the bullet and just been straightforward, I could have circumvented like a decade of crap.
And the amount of energy, I think that's part
That
of
I,
what,
right,
right.
right.
And all of us, it's that, and that's that little kid that didn't need to, and
Mm-hmm.
just do it from a place of just doing it and then just letting it go. Everything is so much easier in your body, in your mind, in
Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense. Makes sense. All right. What is one thing you would most like to change about the world?
Yeah. Like if I thought, you know, what I could provide people or to help people with, or that I could see is really for them to feel safe and feel loved. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think that in and of itself would provide people with not being so angry and not being so
Yeah,
distraught. And when you feel safe, your emotional content really is more fluid. It's not as uh, like staccato or the anxiousness or the
sure.
running from or avoiding. Yeah.
Interesting. Normally, when I think about this question myself, I think about things that the world has that I want to get rid of. Like, my answer usually is to get rid of greed. Because if you get rid of greed, you get rid of a whole lot of societal ills. But I love the way you answered this question because you wanted to add something and not remove something. You want to add safety and love, which really circumvents the fear, the anger, the greed, the lust, the all of that.
Mm.
That's a beautiful thing, Regina. I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are talking because you wrote this amazing book, What Color is Your Medicine? Enter the depths of your heart with the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. And this really touched me because I've been on my own healing journey for quite a few years and have um, dappled in this a little bit, in that I am a very big advocate of acupuncture, which
Beautiful.
has saved my physical self so many times. And every Tuesday, in fact, after we talk, I have my weekly acupuncture session.
Beautiful.
And I mean, I had a bunch of years ago, I had very acute plantar fasciitis. And I
Uh-huh.
went to a podiatrist because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And he gave me these extremely painful shots of something in the bottom of my feet and said that that should eliminate the pain for a few days or a week. And it wasn't even 12 hours and the pain came back. And then I went back to him and he kind of shrugged his shoulders. He's like, I don't know. And I don't know if he was just a crappy doctor or Western medicine really didn't have anything to offer plantar fasciitis. But then somebody suggested, or I might have suggested it to myself because of a previous thing, but I went and I found an acupuncturist right in my town. I had one session and it was gone and it never came back.
Mm.
Gone. 100% gone. Non-invasive, no pain, less than an
Yeah,
hour, gone.
I love that. The
I
body
had,
has a way of finding its way into healing when we offer it openness,
right.
and not everyone will have the one session and it's gone. It's
No,
yeah,
right.
but
That was a
but
particular, yeah, right.
yeah,
But I
but I
have a,
think that's so beautiful because that your body responded to
it
that
knew,
natural
yeah,
healing. Yeah, it knew.
it knew. And I, years before, I had fallen at school and herniated, like in my cervical spine, C4, and I
Oh,
couldn't lift my arms. It was not good. And I went and I had taken a few weeks off from school because I couldn't lift my arms. And 2-3 times a week, I was going to an acupuncturist who was also a chiropractor. And she wasn't really doing so much as adjustments, but doing acupuncture on my neck and my shoulders and my back and whatever else she was aligning. And within a couple of weeks, the pain was gone. I had full range of motion on my arms. So I'm hooked,
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
and the
I love that.
acupuncturist I'm using now, like he can tell when my gallbladder is off or when
Yeah,
my bladder is, or I have too much heat or I have too much wet moisture in my head just by touching my wrists.
yeah, your
And
pulses.
he
Yeah.
looks at my tongue and he feels my feet and he's like, I know, you don't even have to tell me. Like, okay.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
He's
Because
great.
yeah. And when you find that person on your healing team and they
Yeah,
become part of you, they can read you as much, even sometimes deeper than we read ourselves.
exactly.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so take
wonderful.
us all
Yeah.
back, and if you would give us a little like primer, a little explanation about the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine. Like, can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I do have to preface that I'm not a traditionally trained Chinese medicine practitioner. So I
Right.
trained, yeah, Western medicine and
Your
studied
journey
energy.
is very interesting. You were an RN and then you became an NP, a nurse practitioner, and then we're just sort of drawn to all these different Eastern modalities along the way.
Yeah, and so when it was before I studied with Barbara Brennan, which is a 4-year energy medicine school.
Mm-hmm.
I had stumbled into a Chinese medicine practitioner at an integrative conference, and his
Mm-hmm.
name is Dr. Stephen Ong, Aung, and
Mm-hmm.
the most amazing practitioner I have and have still to this day come in contact with. He, at the conference, brought this 5 element sheet with all the colors of the elements, and it shares on each one of them the yin and the yang organ system, right? So
Mm-hmm.
with the earth element, it's the spleen and it's the um, in the stomach. And so when we think about that, it's the color yellow, but it also has to do with emotionally our empathy, sympathy, one that is compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And the stomach and the spleen, if we think about this element of earth, which is the mother, the one
Mm-hmm.
of compassion, the one that feeds us, the one that nurtures us. And so you think of the stomach and how we digest our food, how we eat. The way I started to look at the elements was in a very, from a Western brain, because I
Mm-hmm.
was trained as a nurse practitioner. And when I went to this conference, it was because I had been gifted a session with a healer who did energy medicine. And
Right.
he did what you were saying. He was pushing on my toes because I was crying so much,
Right.
opening up
Beautiful
all my
story.
meridians. Yeah. And so I started to realize there's so much more than someone just putting their hands on me. Like this has effects in all of my body system.
Mm-hmm.
But the one caveat that I walked away from that healer was that my emotional content had been released and my physical body ended up to be very different and people could see it.
Mm-hmm.
People made comments to me. What did you do? Did you lose weight? Did you get your hair cut? And nothing. I did nothing other than cry on this man's table for an
Right.
hour. And I was like, what is going on? And that really began the journey. And so when I went to this conference, this Chinese medicine practitioner, he was working with the person's energy, but at the same time, he was speaking to the elements, the colors of them, the
Mm-hmm.
medicine that they held. And so I walked away with that 5 element sheet in my hand. And for me, it was magic. It had something in it that I didn't understand. And that was really my quest was how can I bring this into the exam room? I was in family practice
Right.
and I got back and this one doc was going on vacation. He said, can you cover my practice? And I was working in emergency medicine and I would do family practice. So I would stay up with treating children.
Sure.
And so I bring it in and every single person I saw, every single one, I brought the thing and I said, hey, I just learned this at a conference. You have asthma. Can we go through this? And I would understand that in the metal element, It had to do with your lung and your large intestine. In our lungs, how we breathe, how we take in our chi, how we bring in really that light of spirit. It has a quality that when we breathe and we're at peace and we bring that oxygen in all our system gets to relax. It's a muscle relaxant when we breathe effortlessly.
Yeah, I'm breathing now that you're talking. It's, yeah.
Yeah. Our large intestine is our stool, is our colon, how we let go of our poop. And if we have a breath that is held, we don't let go of things, right? We hold on. We don't actually make our full belly breath down and in. It's here, right? You see something scary, you hold it, you cut it off. And so what asthma or reactive lung disease will do, it keeps us from really fully breathing all the way down and in. And so when we have an emotional content of grief, we have regret. This is all on the metal element. So for me, it was a journey when I started to look at all the elements. It really brought the energetic connection into ways that we emotionally don't have that openness, that allowance, say, because each one of the elements opens with different ways. And so in the metal that we're in now opens with tears.
Right.
And so if you think about when you have a good
Releasing
cry,
the emotion that way, right?
or we have a good cry, don't you feel so much lighter?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you feel so much better. And so what happens, like, and I'm not saying this in every childhood, but like we have ways of, don't cry. I remember, why are you crying? Like, stop that. And it's all really cutting our emotional content off.
Yeah.
If we're in wood, right, the wood element has to do with our liver and our gallbladder, has to do with anger, frustration. And the opposite of each one of these, there's a peacefulness and there's a balance in it. So it's not all like, with the earth element, when I was saying about, it's empathy and sympathy. We can stand in someone's shoe, but we don't walk in their shoe. We don't take their shoes and put them on, but we do that. We end up overextending ourselves. We end up, feeding somebody in their full to the brim, but no, eat this, do this, and we all can relate to them.
Sure.
And so when we start to really back up, like, and I said that I'm not traditionally trained, so I don't do pulses, I don't put needles in, but I work with people understanding the content physically in their body, where the imbalance is. And then I work with the energetic makeup to help them release it. And so I do that by breath work. I do it by energy medicine. I do it by touch for health, balancing the emotions and the physical and the muscles in your system. And then I do somatic release work. So I get to help you feel into where in your system is, say, like, looks like this instead of like in a balanced way. And so each of the elements that I'm, sporadically sharing, sorry about that. Yeah, the metal.
I'm following.
Okay, so the metal is the lung and large intestine, has to do with our spirituality as well as opening that up. And then if we just keep moving through, the water is our kidney and our bladder. And it has to do with, if it's off center or off balance, it's anxiety, it's a fear. It's that fight or flight that is running the system, so much so that we might end up with adrenal fatigue. We might end up with constant urinary tract infections. We might end up with, we don't feel as energetically alive. And so if that is the case, if you think about anxiety or fear, our system's running like this, and we might miss the ground. We might not be fully rooted, right, into the earth where she holds us steady. And she has a way to, the function of water is actually, it creates a form, and the earth is what does that. It like builds lakes, it has rivers. And so when that body of water is reflected in a way that it's, say, seen, and it's not muddy. It's not, we can't see our reflection in it. We're able to be with ourselves without fear. We're able to truly have that calm in us because we're standing firm, we're grounded, and our root system is fully planted. And so what happens when then we move on to wood, we realize wood is that it has that, say, quality of the root system of a tree, that our spine, our back, our elongation of that, it grows and it allows those, branches to fly out, but they also connect to everything and everyone. And so our vision is clear, our detoxification pathways are open. So the way I've looked at all of the elements was through the puzzle of the body in a way that leaves us energetically connected. And so when our heart, the fire, is open, and the arterial system is open and free, every organ in our system is alive, but it also has that joyful presence where love and that the innocence of the child is brought forth and all through life, but it also has a maturity. There's a, we know what is yes and no. Our boundaries are healthy. And if we're looking
tuned to ourselves, right?
And into the world, that when this is alive and open, our connection as above is so below. It is in this place that is equal and opposite balance. It flows effortlessly. And so when we are fully walking and planted with the mother or the earth, we are truly in sync with the Father or the heavens, right? It's all language, but it's not to, because I work with people and they're like, I don't like the word God. I don't like the word.
Use universe instead.
Right. And then I just say, well, then we just bring in spirit. We just bring in, whatever the language is for you. But then I always say, we need to look at that pocket though, because then we have something that is leaving us not from fully connecting to our spirit. If we have a language that is constricted, that we're not, So my philosophy with all of this and all of the language that comes with it is, if you have a reaction to anything, it's just something to look at.
Yeah.
If there's something that I bring up when I'm bringing up an element, or I'm reading the field and I see that, and I can see that they've overextended themselves and that they have an issue with their mother that hasn't really been truly healed, it might actually be on the earth element with the larger mother.
Right.
And so we end up really understanding our physiology, or people will say, how did you know I had an issue with my mother? And I'll say, well, your stomach is off and your immune system is challenged, and you're overextending yourself and you're weeping over not the decisions that people make, or you're worrying obsessively. And those issues all end up with an imbalance in the earth. And so it's really hard for our heart to be in a place that is open fully and not restricted. So our heart is the one that suffers through these places. Because if you think of the heart being the central portion of it in energy medicine, this is the place that connection to the divine and the connection to the mother. Or if you look at the chakra system, it's the first, second, and third. When your fourth is open, right, then the fifth, sixth, and seventh. So it's all in alignment with the energetic. So for me, once the elements came into my puzzle, everything made sense. And so I studied the 4 years with Barbara Brennan, and that's when the energy medicine, everything clicked. And that's how I ended up creating Soul Journeys.
Interesting.
Yeah, they asked us to do a pilot project in our 4th year of energy medicine. And that was it. I was like, well, I'm going to use the 5 elements. And so I had these 4 kids. One of them was a client of mine in my energy practice. And he was dealing with a lot of emotional issues and was on medications and wanted to come off. And I use flower essences, I muscle test, and I test the field to see if how we can balance that to come off. And I said, well, if you get a few of your buddies, I want to take you all out and do a journey on the land, and we'll see what happens. And so I created Soul Journeys by the name of it. I said Children Healing with Nature. And that was the first pilot project I did, and basically walked them through the elements in a more fashion that than how I just spoke to them.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then I utilize techniques energetically and physically, and bringing in some of the recommendations that are in the book. That's how I use with people on the land. And then the somatic work started to it just started to evolve. Like the more I sat with the earth and the more I sat into the energy of her, then I could really read your field, but help move the energy that's stuck in your field. And so the beginning was the pilot project with those kids. And after their evaluations, I was in tears. They just said, I can't believe it's this easy. I can't believe I don't have to smoke dope to not have anxiety. I don't believe, they were just, it was real. It was, yeah, most of them were dealing with, they were on antidepressants, or they were doing, they were smoking weed every day just to help themselves. And
sure.
Yeah. And, just their faces alone, just to see them like at ease and comfort.
Wow.
Yeah. So that a long way around the elemental chart.
That's cool. My mind is like swimming, like I was taking notes while you were talking and trying to figure out how I could, my way of learning is trying to figure out how it applies to me directly. And like, can I make sense out of the things that I've been feeling or the things that have been going on with me? Can I make sense of that according to the chart you put in the book and while you're talking? So it's all going. So the end of the school year was June. I was very overextended between school and finals and like all this other stuff that was going on professionally, the podcast, planning for the trip to Jamaica with my family. There was like a lot of stuff since like the midpoint in the pandemic, or maybe it was the beginning-ish. It was kind of last summer. I was so anxious. My doctor put me on Lexapro. Okay. And so that was helping with some of the anxiety, but it was also like I felt like my brain was wrapped in cotton. Like I couldn't quite access my own feelings. I knew they were there, but they were like over there, still affecting me, but I couldn't quite reach them. And it took me a long time to figure that out. But then it's the summertime, and now I'm asthmatic, and now I have a sinus infection that I can't get rid of even after 2 rounds of antibiotics, and extreme constipation. So my stomach was bothering me. Okay. And it was all because of, I can see it. You're saying it's unresolved grief, regret, and guilt. And so I have a very complicated relationship with my dad. Don't want to take time to go into all of that now, but the listeners kind of know my relationship with my mom, who is dead almost 8 years, but was undiagnosed, self-medicated bipolar with an opiate drug addiction. And oh, by the way, let's throw in some narcissism in there and some unresolved childhood things from her life, just to, add some spice.
The ancestral baggage.
Yeah, absolutely ancestral baggage. I could see intergenerational trauma coming through her, my great-grandparents, my great-grandparents, straight into me. Totally see it. So I'm, that all comes up when I'm with my dad, because he can't quite stop talking about how much he hated my mom, even though she's been dead almost a decade, and they've been divorced for 30 years. But okay. So I can see how not dealing with all of that stuff and having my emotions really far away from me was causing or exacerbating the constipation and the sinus infection and the breathing issues. And that when I took a space back from my responsibilities. School ended. I took a 3-week hiatus from doing more episodes on the podcast, so I wasn't really working on that.
Yeah.
And I was writing in my journal. I was home. I was in my own space. And you could say, okay, so I finally allowed myself chance to rest, and that's what made the sinus infection go away. But I think that coupled with the fact that I was reducing my Lexapro dose so that I'm a little bit more in touch with my emotions. I was able to write in my journal. I was able to do my own self-administered art therapy, which I do, which opens me up and makes me present and mindful and it's meditative. Like all of that in conjunction helped me regain, and my weekly acupuncture helped me regain my balance again. So it wasn't just what Western medicine would say was the fact that I was finally resting and giving my body a chance to heal in that capacity, but it was all those other components that helped find level again.
And was your asthma less reactive?
Much.
Yeah. And so the body has a way of sharing all of our coming into self.
Right.
And, part of the disconnect, I think, sometimes happens with when we're separated from ourselves. My thought process with everyone is that we're all trying to incarnate ourselves fully. We come in not fully incarnate. And then all the stuff that we had to pack on, or all the things that we endured, and all the parts of our family lineage that are still being unpacked, the more that we find those places in us that are still not in balance.
Right.
So I always tell people, just pick one thing or one sibling or one parent or one, don't try to unpack it all, because
no, it's too much to unravel all at the same time.
And it also takes a toll on us. And when, I connect to ask about my own piece of my puzzle, it's always, and let's just work on this for 2 hours this morning and the rest of my day be in peace. Because if we end up being this constant, in our own therapy wheel, and we never really are in life. We're like obsessed with, becoming the enlightened one or the master of our being. We have to still enjoy being this human, playful, crazy place that we're trying to stay away from the pandemic.
I'm just trying to relearn how to do that. In the fall of 2019, I spent 3 months writing my memoir, and it was I went back through, I've been keeping journals since 1983. So I went back and I read all of my journals.
Wow.
Which was a trip, I must say. And then trying to make connections and see patterns and, how did I evolve to be who I am now, and then tell my story. And so for months I was mired in this up to my ears. And that was part of how I had to do it. That was the process. And then my husband, thank God for him, because he held my hand through the whole thing. When I would cry over things that happened 40 years ago, he was just there empathetically holding me and talking it out with me. And it was just the most amazing thing. But and then I had to go through revisions and editing. And so for the better part of a year, this was my life. And I didn't allow myself time to go out and be giddy and childlike and connect with the earth and do all of that. I see people now getting excited and running, and I'm like, how do they do that? I can't remember the last time I was that excited that I was jumping up and down and running, or even conversely, in touch with my feelings enough to cry. And I've been a crier my whole life. People have been saying, oh, Marci's going to cry at this, or don't show her that TV show. She'll never stop crying. She'll dehydrate from tears. And I can't remember the last time I cried. I'm trying, this touched me. Your writing and your research and your explanations of this touched me so elementally, Regina. I feel like I feel like it's part of the universe brought it to me now because it's helping me unwrap myself again.
Mm. Look at, I'm tears with
Grateful.
you, yeah, but also like, that is part of the emotional content to allow it, because that for me speaks to my soul, that the reason I wrote the book when I
Now I'm crying too.
finished.
I haven't cried in so long. Now I'm crying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you, because those are healing tears. Those are
Yeah.
welcome tears. Yeah. So beautiful.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to push it away, but I have to be able
Yeah.
to
No, but
talk.
it's better than okay. So just plant those feet in those grounds
Okay.
and
My
root
feet
into
are up. Yeah,
her.
I'll put them down on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. Put them down. There you go.
Okay.
And then breathe into that beautiful belly.
Are we all
Yeah.
breathing at home? Breathe. Breathe with us. Breathe with us. All right.
Yeah. Because then the content comes and it goes. She composts it for us, and then we get that next breath, and it's
Yeah.
full. It's more rounded. We're more full. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a moment where you were talking about it was a poignant I'm getting your story in your book confused with my own experience, but there was a moment where you were talking about like holding hands and connecting hearts, and I don't know whether it was a patient or
Yeah.
what, and
Yeah.
an older woman, wasn't it, or something? Oh yeah,
She,
it was that woman who didn't speak English, and she was there with her daughter, and it was her end of life, and the daughter was holding on, and you were there just holding the older woman's hand, and your souls connected on a very basic level, sort of giving her the comfort and the peace she needed to leave, and comforting the daughter in her grief and her love for her mom. Was what
look at,
right?
I just, yeah, thank you. You just brought that right back.
It was
Yeah.
so beautiful. It made me remember my maternal grandmother was 89 and had been suffering from heart issues my whole life. So from the time she was like 60 or 50 something. And we knew she was really towards the end, and she had a live-in caretaker named Lana, who was one of the most delicious, amazing, emotional, beautiful souls I've ever encountered in my life. And Lana called my mom and said, I think today's the day. She's going to leave today. She hasn't been eating. She didn't eat her oatmeal, yada, yada, yada. So we all, my mom, her sister, and I met Lana and my grandmother at the hospital. And after a while of the doctors coming in and out and all this hustle and bustle, it was just my grandmother lying on the bed, and we didn't think she was conscious. Her heart rhythm was all over the place. And I was holding her, let me picture this correctly. I was holding her left hand. My mom was holding her feet and and my aunt was holding her right hand. So we were all connected to my grandmother, and we were just at peace, and we kind of knew what was going to happen, but we weren't fixated on the grief of that, and we were just telling funny Betty stories,
Yeah.
quirky, crazy, funny things that she said or did, and how she made us feel loved and was like the matriarch of the family. And we were going on like that for, I have no idea how long. Could have been an
Right.
hour, could have been 5 hours. I have no idea. And
Right.
then all of a sudden, she wasn't communicating with us because none of us thought she was conscious. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, her heart rate went into perfect sinus rhythm that it had not been in 40 years. And we had this moment where we all sort of held our breath, and then her heart stopped. And we could, I can't speak for my mom or my aunt, but I could feel peace settle at the same time that I sort of felt like a whoosh, kind of.
Yeah.
And then she was gone, and the nurse came in quietly and shut the machine off so it wasn't squeal, and we just sat there with her for a while and just were silent. It was, besides the birth of my children, the most beautiful moment of my life. Just a circle of women, and to see the peaceful end of that and share that, transformed me.
Yeah. Whew. Thank you so much for sharing that.
It's beautiful.
I had a similar thing happen when my dad left. My mom was on one side holding his left hand, and I was on the other side holding his right. And he had been sick for a while, and I knew it was not long.
Right.
And my mom's dear friend would call her every morning, and she called and told my mom a joke that morning. And so my dad and her were very good friends, and always knew she was always rambunctious, and, bleached her hair blonde at 80, just
nice.
like just really
vivacious.
Fun. Yeah, and fun. And so my mom comes into the room, and before we're sitting either side, she said, Rosie just called and told me a joke. And this is same as your same as your grandmother was lying there, was in a state of, this was his last day on earth, and was not speaking. And I said, well, Ma, tell the joke. So she grabs his hand, I'm on the other side, and we are roaring laughing as she's telling the joke.
Great.
And in this state of laughter, my dad, big smile, and takes his last breath and leaves.
Wow. Oh,
and as we are hysterically laughing, my mom said, he's gone. And I said, I know. What a great way to go.
Yeah.
And to that day,
and he left you two laughing instead of in tears. And
then, it was the wildest thing, because at the wake, the place where people came to see him goodbye, every person said, it looks like your dad's smiling.
That's awesome.
I know. And I said, he was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it just, that, what you just shared, that it was just one of those most sacred gifts. And to me, that honestly was probably the most sacred gift I've been given in this lifetime. Yeah.
Somehow. And and we were sad, and there was a lot of grief that she was gone, but all of that was after. In the moment, it was just peace.
Yeah.
We knew she was no longer suffering with all the health issues that she was, and she just left surrounded by love, by the three women she loved most in the world. And it was just extraordinary.
Yeah. There's so many pieces of our puzzles. I think that, there's no accident that you were there, and there was no accident that you were all in that circle of life and of death. It's about the process of it. We're always living, dying, and birthing ourselves. We regenerate every 7 years. We, part of the culture of, the evolution of nature is to die, is to come back, is to rebirth of fire. That whole thing came through me after a fire.
Out of the ashes. Yeah.
And that was the really the catalyst for the book, after losing everything in the
you
Northern
had two
California
fires
fire.
where your house burned down twice. I mean, talk about taking the phoenix rising from the ashes literally, Regina. I've only done this metaphorically, thank goodness, but
I always tell people, I think I just needed a bigger push to really evolve into me, into the incarnate into. I needed that extra, Mother Nature's.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there have been a couple of times in my life where I have realized that every decision that I had made and the place that I had found myself in was toxic. There wasn't really anything about what I was doing that was healthy for me. was healthy for my kids when I became a mom. And a couple of times I can think of like 4 right off the bat where I metaphorically torched it all and started over. Quit my job, changed my friends, moved, just totally started over. Got divorced, like all of these things. After a while, excommunicated my mom and broke up with the relationship that I was in, and like just regrouped and started again. And to me, it was the only way to save myself. It was the only way to continue living my life in a way that was true to me and stop with the toxicity and the bullshit and just be healthy and raise healthy kids, which was the ultimate goal, and following those instincts paid off, like luckily I have been self-intuitive enough to be in touch and go, all right, this is it, I'm done. And when I say I'm done, I'm done.
But
I'll
also the courage and the strength it takes to do so. So I just want you to get to the other side of that.
Yeah, I didn't appreciate that enough in the moment. My therapist has helped me figure that out. And friends who have said, oh my God, my life is X, Y, and Z, just like yours was. And I don't know how you did that. And I'm like, I don't know, I just did it,
Right.
I don't know where that comes from except self-preservation.
But it is that connection that we are cared for on the deepest of levels and that we are supported. And especially when we make that choices of change that are really the evolution of your soul to make it to here.
Right. Yeah. And I've always felt like the universe has my back. I've said that more times than maybe I should tattoo that on my arm. But I've always felt like no matter what I really needed, it might not have been what I wanted. It might not have been I thought I was expecting, but what I really needed, the universe has provided.
Yeah.
I've never felt cast out. I've never felt unmoored to that depth, like even in the middle of a sandstorm or a shitstorm or whatever you want to call it, I never was totally unmoored. I always felt like the universe had my back.
I've had instances because, for me, if I wasn't paying attention, I would have a voice speak to me. And one, I didn't mention this in the book, but there was a condo I was living in Boston, and the person above me's stove blew up.
Oh God.
And so I had a headache, which I'm not a headache person. And I was working in the emergency room, and I had a clinic. I had my own little office space. It was really a 2x2, and I lived across the street from it. And I had clients that afternoon, but I had a space, a little window, and I had a headache. So I said, oh, I should go lay down. I have time. And I got home, I put myself down, and all of a sudden I heard this voice said, wake up, pay attention to the message. Wake up, pay attention to the message. So I sat bolt upright in bed, and I thought, there's no one here. And that instant, ba-boom, that whole thing blew up, and the sprinkler system went off in the whole entire building. And my roof was coming in from the blow up of what took place. And so I got out with, I grabbed my pocketbook and I got out, and I was okay. But that message truly was the wake up,
extra few seconds to get to safety,
to save myself. And then the other one, these are two that just popped into my head. The other one, I was in a relationship that I knew was not serving me, but I stayed I was in a place that I wasn't making a shift. And in the middle of the night, same thing, someone just out of the blue, if you stay, you will die.
Wow.
And I thought, I didn't hear that. And so it got louder. If you stay, you will die. I sat bolt upright, and that was it. I was gone within 3 months. But
wow.
Yeah. So my message is, if I don't pay attention, or I'm disconnected, or I'm not, I know something
will remind you, will tell you.
Will remind me, but also that my path here is to continue what I'm doing. and it has to be in a place that's fully connected and aligned. So I think all of us get those little knocks or those red flags. And now I can say, of late, they're not as dramatic, or I will notice if I, twisted my ankle, or I have a little twist in my back. I'll ask, wow, what did I miss on that? What am I not paying attention to? So I really go into every message in the body, or every reaction I have with someone or something. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. What am I holding, or what is it in me that I don't see that's in them? Because why would I judge that? Or why would I judge them? Or why would that's a place that I'm holding in myself that has not yet healed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I see that in myself a lot. I'm not a judgmental person by nature. And there have been like things I'll say to myself in my own head about someone else, very harshly judgmental. And it's always about one subject that I am still not healed with or at peace with myself.
Yeah.
And it feels icky. I don't like the way that feels going in, going out at all. So I have to work on that.
But it's also a time to, I tell people it's a nice time to really look in the mirror, like to really just reflect that person that you judged or that issue back to you. Until you can find that place of compassion for yourself, you'll find it in them.
Right.
And that is the time that we just sit, the time to be still, because then we don't have to judge and get harsher at the thought that we did that, or we're a bad person, or we're not kind, or whatever, because then we go in this whole loop and we never really come back to that thread of being connected to really who we are. There's beauty in all of us, even in the places and the people that we find that aren't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you no. How sorry. How if we have listeners who are interested or know that they want to start unraveling their own unhealthy choices, or how does somebody begin this process if they're sort of skirting around it and haven't found the courage to dive in? What advice might you give them?
That's a great question. It's the universe, or like if they're stumbling upon this, right? Part of it, without self-promote in any way, shape, or form, would be come back into the place where they feel most at ease. So if it is really going out and sitting in nature, but sitting with no agenda, and then just coming back to the felt sense of their body and come back to their breath. There's easy ways to do breath work, but one of the easiest things I tell people is to just do that deep breath in, hold it for a second or two, and have your exhale be just a little longer. Easiest way to relax your parasympathetics, relax your nervous system, and kick that in just to a place of calm, because that's where your muscles will start to relax in your body. And then just see what comes through your mind. And the first thing that comes through that is not of, say, that it takes you into a loop, or being disconnected, that's the place that I would begin to inquire, just an inquiry. Whether it's journal, or whether it's, somewhere where you can find a place with no judgment, that you're just witnessing yourself. Let yourself just free form with thought in a journal, or a place with that, but a place that you can connect to out in nature, even if it's in your backyard, grabbing a chair, taking your shoes off, putting your feet on the ground, what that feels like, getting a sense of what your body is in time and space. And in the physical realm, if you're physically connected to yourself, you'll start to feel things that maybe you haven't. And the breath will bring you into that. And that is a place to begin. And then you just put out there in a prayer, or, I tell people, if you don't like the word prayer, I use intention. You just start with that intention. May I gravitate, or may I find something to read, or a person to speak with, or a healer to connect to that will help me begin my path. And that's it. That might be just the prayer or the intention, just enough. Because notoriously, when I started all this, I would have something come on the radio. I would hear somebody in the grocery line speaking of something, and I would have this visceral reaction and think, I don't know them. Why is this? And that was the journey in.
Right.
Well, wow, they're teaching me about something I have no clue about. And then notoriously, oh, wow, this person goes to this person. Wow, you should go call that, it
falls
evolves
together.
It does. But the minute the universe sees that little bit of, I want something to change, ba-boom.
It steps in.
It steps in. I promise that will happen to anybody that's listening that really wants to begin the journey. Yeah.
I agree. I've seen it happen in my life many, many times.
Yeah. It's just, the book itself, there's so many aspects of it that I didn't share because there's just so many things that happened. But after I finished, I had lost everything. So I took time out in Bodega Bay, and I would drive to Sebastopol because that was the closest town that had a library and just everything. And so when I would go to the library, and the one day I said, oh, I want quotes for my book, and at the end of the chapters. And so, I didn't have any books or anything. So I wasn't really a reader of Deepak Chopra, but I just, for whatever reason that day, I thought, let me try his stuff. He's out there. I love his, medicine and what have you. And I had actually met his brother. I worked in
Wow.
Beth Israel. I know. And he was or he may be still, I'm not sure if he's still practicing there at Beth Israel, but he was a liver physician, hematologist. And he was in the ER one day, and I was seeing, I don't know if it was his patient, but it might've been a mutual consult or whatever, but he was there, and I saw his last name, and I said, oh my God, you can't be related to Deepak Chopra. And he said, oh, he's my brother. And I said, oh no. And I said, do you have his books in your waiting room? And he said, yeah. I go, have you read them? Like, it was just like this banter,
Sure.
and yeah, but he was just such a beautiful soul. And so when I went to the library that day, I said, I should really check out this guy's,
Sure.
And so I get his books out, and I started to look through, just to see if I could find a quote that would feel right in the book and stuff. And so I opened this one book. It said God on the cover. It's a big book. And yeah, I know it was one, I'm sure there was a subtitle in the cover, but so I opened the book up because I thought, okay, God, that's a good start.
Right.
I opened the book up, and there was a piece of paper that was folded, and it was folded like in four. It was just like this. And on the front of it was a heart.
Wow.
Like the front of the book. And it was a heart that was from a medical coloring book. And it was all done in watercolor.
Wow.
And when I saw it, my whole reaction, because the heart, this is the cover of the book.
Sure.
And when I opened it up, it was a love letter. A person wrote a love letter and drew this
and
left it in the book. And so I honored the letter, but I didn't read it. I just saw that it was a love letter. And then I just asked, can I take the cover for my book? And I took a snapshot of the cover, put it back, closed the book. And
that's the heart.
That's what and then I had someone I didn't take it. I had them copy it, or make a
new one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the whole thing just kept going like that. Like I asked them, what do I charge for the book, God? What do I charge, Spirit, for the book? And
Right.
so I went into a thrift shop in Sebastopol another day, and I had that question when I went. And so I parked my car, and the car in front of me, the license plate had 999. And so I was like, oh, I love numbers. I love Doreen Virtue's Healing with the Angels, and the back of the book has numbers. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's good numbers. And then I have to have confirmation 3 times. So then I go in and I lost everything. And my thought was, oh, I'd love to get Doreen's book back because of that 999. Because in the back of her book, she has triple digits and she tells you what the angels are speaking to.
Okay.
So I go into, of course, the thrift shop. I look in the back with the books, and what's there? There's the book, Healing with the Angels. What's the price of the book? 99 cents. Then I walk by this rack of shoes, and there's these cool boots. And I was like, oh my God, they're my size. I flip the thing over. It's $9.99. So I was like,
there's your 3.
Okay, thank you. And so I open the book up.
That's awesome.
And then you look at the back of the book. I gave that book away, so I don't have I can't read it to you specifically, but it is no lie. It is the ending of a cycle, and it is for the healers of this earth. It is your time to come forward.
Wow, I have chills on my arm. Wow.
So I get out to the car and I said, Spirit, I'm supposed to give the book away for $9.99. Can I do $19.99? So I did $19.99, and then I did the Kindle $9.99. And then when I narrated it, so I did the audio book, and I was like, I want it to be $9.99. And then they won't let you do that. It's how much time. Right. So yeah. So I was like, oh, well, but yeah.
Well,
so
it's out of your hands. It's out of your hands.
It was out of exactly. But the point of this, I guess, is to say that really once you put the intention out or the prayer, like it comes forward. So absolutely. Anybody, as you started with, who wants to open to this path, it's really just a matter of setting that as your intention, and it will happen.
It will happen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. I just feel great that you've asked me all this about the book. It's fun.
Awesome. So you have a, just really quickly so that the listeners know, you've got a conference in Peru coming up in October.
In November.
I got it wrong. Yeah, November.
That's all right. And it's an international holistic conference that is going to be virtual this year because of our climate. Sure. And they asked me to be one of the speakers. And so I will be sharing the elements in a more experiential fashion. So you'll be able to have healing through it with just by listening and I do long distance healing. So it'll be part of that as you hear about the element, and then I'll bring you through an experiential process so you can have that part of your system. Yeah.
So you treat patients in a physical, like 3D in real life practice, but you also do through Zoom and Skype and so on as well.
You bet.
Anybody who lives far away from you can still be.
And that's part of the Brennan's healing. So in the last year of school, you actually have to treat people in a different place, in a different building. And then you take notes, and then you go back and forth. So you practice long distance healing, but then you realize the energetics of it, that you feel you are connected in a way that brings healing to them. So I do also group healing once a month, the first Wednesday of the month for an hour.
And so people can access all of this through your website, souljourneys.com.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So all these links will be linked down below in the show notes, so they can access you quickly that way. So, well, Regina, this has been just phenomenal. I've loved every minute of this, and I knew I was going to. I was looking forward to this for a long time. So,
thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thanks to all of you who support this show on Patreon. You keep Permission to Heal up and running.
If you want to become a valued patron, please go to www.patreon.com/permission to heal. That's www.patreon.com/permission to heal. After we pay expenses, 25% goes to scholarships at the Karen Treatment Centers to transform lives impacted by addiction. Your support is contributing directly to helping people and their families transform and heal from addiction. This is a cause very close to my heart, as my mother died of the effects of opiate addiction, and it tore my family to pieces. Thank you so much for supporting Permission to Heal and my mission to support others through their healing journey, through addiction, through Karen Treatment Centers. You are vital to our success. The Permission to Heal podcast is sponsored by Instacart. If you're anything like me, no matter how you try to schedule your life, you're always super busy. And when it comes to doing errands and grocery shopping, we need a little help. Instacart is here to help us get our essentials delivered in as fast as an hour. It is amazing. With Instacart, you can do all your shopping online at your favorite local stores, grocery stores, pharmacies, Target, Costco, Staples, Sephora, Bed Bath & Beyond, 7-Eleven, even some liquor stores. And an Instacart shopper will shop for you. All of my Instacart shoppers have been super helpful in choosing my items. If the store is out of what I've asked for, the shopper will text me pictures of similar items for me to choose from and will change my bill to reflect the changes. Then the shopper delivers my items directly to my door. And you can choose contactless delivery, which helps keep everyone healthy and safe. I rely on Instacart for grocery shopping every week, and sometimes for even my non-prescription drugstore items. Instacart is like having a personal assistant help me with my shopping every week. Get your groceries and essentials delivered in as fast as an hour via Instacart. New customers can get free delivery on your first order of $10 or more. Just click the link below, which will take you directly to instacart.com so you too can get the help you need. Just click the link below and you can get your groceries and essentials delivered in as fast as an hour via Instacart. New customers can get free delivery on your first order of $10 or more. Instacart.com, your personal and quick shopping assistant. You won't know how you lived without it. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Permission to Heal. I hope you found it moving and inspirational. Please remember, you don't need anyone else's permission to trust and follow your heart. You have the power within you. Subscribe to Permission to Heal so you don't miss any new episodes, and please share this with your friends.